How do you choose the right welding process for your project? That is one of the most common questions we get, and the answer is rarely simple. The truth is, there isn't one best way to weld. The right choice depends entirely on your project, your budget, and the level of finish that you need. That's because the four most common welding processes, MIG, TIG, stick, and Flux Core, all approach the same task in fundamentally different ways. MIG is fast and easy to learn, using a continuously fed wire. Stick is rugged and portable, using consumable electrodes, making it perfect for rusty metal and outdoor work. Flux Core offers the speed of MIG without needing an external gas source, and TIG is the master of precision, offering incredible control for the cleanest, strongest welds. So, to help you make an informed choice, we decided to put these four methods head to head. We took a single, simple task, laying a clean butt weld on standard mild steel, and performed it using all four methods. We're going to compare the welding speed, the technique, and the final quality of each weld. We invited our friend and local welding professional, Vince, to walk us through each of these processes, showing you the distinct differences for each process. We're starting with what is arguably the most common process in any modern shop, MIG welding.
All right, so we're gonna switch gears a little bit and talk about technique. While you're welding, it's important that you're keeping about a 1/4 inch stick out between your torch and your workpiece. You don't want to increase your distance or decrease your distance and drive in, because it could result in poor welds. All right, next thing we need to roll into is our torch angle during technique. So we have our workpiece here. It's just a flat piece of 1/8. It's a coupon. And basically what we need to do here is make sure that our torch angle is correct while we're welding. So basically what we want to do, we have two different torch angles. When you have two pieces of steel and you're welding a joint, you always want to make sure that you're pointed 45 degrees into the joint. And then you can also rotate down another 45 degrees if you're pushing or if you're pulling, whatever you're doing. You don't really want to exceed 45 degrees and you don't really want to exceed 15 degrees to go vertical. So again, 45 degrees to the work joint, or if you're working on a flat piece, just keep it 45 degrees to the workpiece as you're traveling. You might want to lean more towards pushing your weld into the material if you're worried about penetration on a structural procedure or something like that. However, it's going to create a little bit less visibility for you. So as a beginner, if you want to pull your welds, this way you can kind of get behind the puddle, see what you're doing. It makes it easy for you to develop a good technique that you can then apply when you grow your skills and get into larger, more complex projects in the future. Just to give you guys a brief example of what that might look like, if this is my workpiece and I were to be pulling my weld, I would arc up here, and as I'm working it, I'm pulling away from the puddle, just like this. Pushing, obviously just the reverse. My torch angle, I'm driving into the weld instead of pulling away from the weld. So it's all about your torch angle in reciprocity to the weld piece itself and how you're either driving or pulling away. All right, guys, so we want to talk about travel speed, which basically just correlates to the speed that you're moving the torch down the workpiece during your weld. There's really no set travel speed for your welds. This is all going to be worked into conjunction with your wire feed and your voltage application. Basically, it's the welder's job to pay attention to the weld pool and see what the weld pool is doing and react off of that. If you fire up and you're mid-weld and you start traveling too fast, you're just going to get a bunch of popping and sputtering from the gun. You're not going to be laying in the material to the actual workpiece. So what you want to do is slow up, pay attention to your weld pool, and as your weld pool is cooling, you're just adding a little bit more to it to keep the end of the weld pool molten at all times. You're not worried about an inch back being molten still. You kind of just want to focus on the bead at hand. So you're going to keep your electrode at the edge of the weld puddle, and we're just going to work that back and forth, keeping a molten puddle as we travel, not traveling too fast or too slow to build up and burn through. All right, guys, so we're going to jump into a butt weld here. Butt weld, basically just two pieces of plate. They butt up right next to each other and you have your weld seam down the middle. Again, I want to touch on the torch angle here. So now that we actually have a weld seam, there's two different angles that we need to pay attention to. We need to pay attention to our actual torch angle into the joint so that we're not favoring all of our material into one piece or the other. So instead of having a rotation this way or this way, we want to be straight down into the joint. And then our second angle, again, is going to be our actual torch angle to the weld seam. So we're going to go about 45 degrees to the weld seam, and we're going to pull this weld just to show you the aesthetics of it. I want to get a good view on the back side of it. So we're going to be pulling this weld, but again, you could push it as well if you need to. So I'm going to drop the hood. We'll get into this. Again, I'm going to initiate my arc, keeping my stick out at a 1/4 inch. We're gonna evaluate the puddle. Once it starts to build, we're gonna practice that 50% overlap and them cursive E's, and we're just gonna stay on that weld seam until we connect our tacks. So as you guys can see, my stick out is remaining consistent. I'm 50% on each plate on both sides of the weld seam, and each of my beads are running about a 50% overlap on the previous bead. I'm not traveling too fast or too slow. Kind of reading the puddle and moving when it tells me it's ready. And there you have a nice clean butt weld, tack to tack. All right guys, so we're gonna jump into TIG welding now. The TIG process is going to be slightly different than your other processes because of how important the shielding gas is. So you have your workpiece right here. We're just going to pretend that this is a weld joint down the center of this plate. If I'm straight down 90 degrees perpendicular from my plate, when my shielding gas travels out of my nozzle, it's going to hit the plate and it's going to disperse evenly, right, left, front, and back of my puddle. Now, the reason that this is important is if I start to create a really harsh angle with my torch as I'm pushing along here, once the back side of my nozzle clears that weld, any weld bead behind my nozzle is no longer getting the shielding gas that it needs. So it's going to oxidize before the rest of the weld. So one thing we want to try to do while we're TIG welding is keep our torch as straight as possible. This way, when we get our shielding gas to make contact with our weld, we're getting an even dispersion behind and in front. If you guys do feel the inclination to tilt a little bit because it makes you more comfortable, I wouldn't recommend going anything past about 15 degrees in the direction that you're traveling. This is going to aid in making sure that there's shielding gas in front of the puddle, but it's still going to deliver a little bit of coverage to the welds that you've already completed. One thing that you guys are going to want to pay attention to when it comes to your fill rod is the process and your technique when you're inserting your fill rod into your bead. Again, we have our fill rod here, we have our torch here, and this is our workpiece. So no matter where you have your torch angled, if you choose to go perpendicular or if you guys are choosing a 15-degree angle with your torch, basically what you want to kind of do is create that right angle with your tungsten and your fill rod. So if I'm at a 15-degree angle and I'm filling right here, I kind of want to come in and I want to make that right angle right there between my fill rod and my electrode. Another topic we want to touch on is the travel speed of your torch. This is slightly different than a machine that's constantly feeding your electrode. Since you have a lot more control over it, it's kind of up to you if you need to speed up or if you need to slow down to concentrate your weld. One thing that we want to kind of make sure that we're doing is we're not traveling too fast and not giving our base metal an actual chance to melt before we start adding a puddle. It's just going to result in a really cold weld that isn't penetrated properly. And then on the contrary of that statement is if we move way too slow and we're putting way too much heat into our material, we can burn through the material at any moment. So I'm going to demonstrate what it might look like as you guys are traveling and dabbing. As a beginner welder, it's going to look different than somebody who's been doing this for a while. So as a beginner welder, what you're kind of going to want to do is soft start into your material. You're going to wait until you have your puddle established. Once your puddle is established, you're going to dab into the leading edge. You're going to pull your filler rod back out and you're going to move over to the next spot. Once your puddles continue to be established, you're going to continue to add fill rods, so on and so forth. And what this might look like as a beginner is it looks like you're in a spot, you're adding fill rod, you're moving, adding fill rod, moving, adding fill rod. As you get more familiar with this process, this is going to turn into one slick motion where instead of stopping the torch, you're continuously sliding the torch and you're just adding your fill rod into the leading edge of the puddle, but you're never stopping your movement with your torch. Now we want to take everything that we just taught you and we're going to put it all together and we're going to start welding and we're going to show you what this looks like in real time. All right guys, so now that we have our tacks on here, we're going to drop the hood and we're going to actually start to initiate our weld by adding our fill rod in. So same concept as before. I have my center joint right down the two pieces here. I'm going to keep my torch directly in the center. I don't want to favor one plate or the other plate. And I also don't want to exceed about 15 degrees as I'm traveling down my joint here. So I'm going to drop my hood, I'm going to hit my pedal, and I'm going to slowly start my arc. And then I'm going to continue to increase my amperage with my pedal until the puddle forms. Now that I have a puddle, I'm just going to dab right into the leading edge there and get my fill rod back out. And we're just following this process all the way down the joint, keeping a good consistent speed, good consistent bead profile, and I'm only using about half of my pedal. And then again, to terminate this weld, we're going to remove our fill rod and we're going to back off the pedal very slowly so that our last bead does not crater when it shrinks. And then we'll sit there and we'll let our post flow cover that weld until it stops. And then we'll remove it. And here we are left with a nice butt welded joint with good consistency and a good bead profile throughout. All right, so now we're going to get into the fun stuff. One thing to note is that initiating the arc can be a little difficult and discouraging for a beginner welder. So we'll talk about some of the techniques that I use to strike an arc on this. The first thing that you want to make sure you're doing is not putting too much pressure on it. Usually what's going to end up happening is when you strike an arc, it'll stick and you got to wiggle it off and then restart, and it leaves a little bit of junk and crud all over your material that makes it harder to weld over later. So one thing that I like to do is kind of pretend like you're striking a match almost, except it's a lighter touch. So you're not really digging in and slinging the electrode off the material. It's just a very light, get in there, and then you kind of just almost like you're just scratching the surface of it, and it should kind of just arc up on you, and then you can start to drag or push or pull your puddle however you need to do it from there. Once your arc is struck and your puddle is starting to establish, you're going to need to move. So what we want to do here, if you want to do a practice run real quick, try to keep your electrode just a small gap between your electrode and the work material, and you're just going to move along and try to keep that same gap along the workpiece as you're traveling, and that's going to help you once your weld is actually established and you're moving. So we're going to strike our arc using the very tip of the electrode. Once we have our puddle established, we're going to start either pushing or pulling, but as we're pushing or pulling, we're also going to be driving our stinger closer to our workpiece because our electrode is going to be getting shorter as we weld. So strike the arc, get the puddle going about 45 to 90 degrees from the workpiece, and then we're going to be driving in while we're pushing or pulling. The other thing that we want to touch base on is travel speed when you're moving with your electrode. This is going to be dependent on your material thickness, the amperage that your machine's outputting, and how fast you're able to actually travel down the material. So once you get your puddle established and you start to move, you're paying attention to the puddle itself. If the puddle is going way too fast for you, it's melting everything away, you can decrease your amperage on your machine to make things a little bit colder, and it makes it a little bit easier to create a bead profile. If you're sitting in the same spot for too long, that's a good indication that your amperage is too cold, and we're going to increase our amperage, and that's going to allow us to flow better. All right, we got our tack. Now we're going to fire up our arc, and we're going to travel down our joint here, making sure that our angles and our travel speed is correct. So you can see I'm directly on top of the joint. I'm not favoring one side or the other. Keeping a consistent travel speed. Then we'll terminate our weld. Remove our electrode from our stinger. Grab your chipping hammer. We're going to chip the flux off, reveal the weld, and see how it looks. And there you go. You have a stick welded butt joint. All right, so we're going to talk about Flux Core welding now. Discussing torch angle when you approach your weld. It's basically going to be the same across the board for all your different styles of welding. You want to kind of approach at a 45-degree angle, but it's mostly for visibility. You want to be able to see what you're welding. So if you're behind your torch and you're trying to weld like this, you're not going to be able to see the puddle. You want to get in front of it, make sure you can see exactly what you're doing, and then you can track that the entire length of the weld. General rule of thumb for a flux core is you want to pull only. So as you're welding, you're pulling and moving down the line instead of pushing into the material. You can do a couple different techniques. We have waves or we have cursive ease. There's a ton of different manipulations that you can do with a torch, but as beginners, two things that you're going to want to start out practicing is just doing a wave, which is basically just forming a wave. You're washing up onto one piece and back down to the next piece across the joint. And then the other one is going to be your cursive ease. It's basically the same thing. Imagine you're drawing a cursive E, and right in the center of the cursive E is your weld joint. So half of the E is below the joint and the other half of the E is on top of the joint, and you're basically just doing little circle E's in cursive to create your weld bead and individual bead profiles. Last thing to consider is your travel speed when you're moving your torch. Again, this is always going to come down to the settings, the material thickness that you're working with, and what the results are that you want. Heat and wire speed always work in conjunction, which we've talked about before. So if you have a very high heat, you also need to create a very fast wire speed travel to coordinate with the heat. Again, if you have too much heat, not enough wire, you're going to run into issues. If you have too much wire, not enough heat, you're going to run into issues. So once your settings are dialed in pretty good, you're looking for the same stuff. You don't want to undercut your material, but you also don't want to build a cold wall of weld that's not actually penetrating the material. Okay, so once we have our two pieces tacked together, our joint is established right through the center. What we're gonna do is practice our cursive E's, and what we're gonna do is try keeping the bottom piece on the bottom half of the E and the top piece on the top half of the E. So we're gonna split the cursive E right down the weld seam. We're gonna stay as straight as possible, keeping our nozzle the same distance away from the material throughout the whole weld, and we're gonna move at a consistent speed to keep our bead profile even. So again, we're arcing up right here. Once my puddle's established, I'm splitting the cursive E over the weld joint, half on top, half below. And we're just keeping this consistency throughout the weld. Once we've terminated our weld, we can scratch the flux off the top and we'll be left with what we've just created here. Take your wire brush, clean it up. And there you have a proper weld joint with Flux Core.
And there you have it, the exact same weld completed using 4 different processes. The takeaway is simple. Choose the welder based on the job. If you need speed and production, MIG is your friend. If you need ultimate strength and appearance, TIG is the way to go. If you want to master the specific techniques and setup for each one of those 4 processes, we have the perfect full-length welding course for you over at eastwooduniversity.com. If welding isn't your thing, we also cover topics like metal fabrication, fiberglass repair, and even how to paint your own car. Start learning a new skill today, and hopefully we'll see you in class real soon.